Hey guys, welcome to another Beyond All Reason on the Fly replay analysis. I'm your host Zateo, and today we're going to be looking at jakey777 as they play the front line on this new map called Failed Negotiations. Let's get into it. Let's see, I gotta turn the player view on properly, put that on, and unpause. Alright, let's see how you're doing here. So here right away, actually, I would say we want to rearrange this a little bit perhaps. So generally speaking, in bar, you basically want your metal is the resource that you need the most of, and it's harder to get metal. So you want to grab metal as soon as possible, grabbing these three mexes, as you can. Now, if you try to grab all three mexes and then build a a wind collector or a wind turbine. Sorry, I'm mixing up the names of these. If you build three mexes and then the wind turbine, then you're going to stall because the wind turbine requires energy and so do the mexes, and so you won't have much energy. So what you want to do is grab two mexes, and that'll basically eat up a lot of your energy. Build one wind turbine, and then your third mex, and then you can add on a couple more wind turbines, or you could add on like a solar and another wind turbine, and then your lab. The other way you could do this, if it's a solar map, or if you want to start with solar, you can grab all three mexes, put down a solar, and then a couple more wind turbines, and then grab the lab. The reason being is solar does not take any energy to build, whereas wind turbines do. Wind turbines, it's only 175 energy, but you will stall if you grab all three mexes and then place down a wind turbine. So a little bit of a rearrangement here to help you get just a little bit more metal. And in this kind of lobby, the more you manage your resources, the more units you'll have out, the better you'll do. So that's, to me, the first and foremost very important thing to work on as a newer bar player. Yeah, this is also a bit too much energy. You don't quite need that much. You basically need either 3 wind turbines or 2 solar collectors, or you could do or you could do 1 solar collector and 2 winds. And then if wind is really good, you can actually just do one, or just do a couple winds instead of all 3, or 1 solar and 1 wind or something like that. It very much varies depending on the wind speed. And on this map, wind speed is between 2 and 17 with an average of 12.7. So wind is quite good here. If you hover your mouse over this tooltip or over the icon here, you'll see that's it's better to build a solar collector when the average wind speed is below 5 for Armada, which are Armada, so it'd be 5. Those numbers in terms of advanced solar collector for Armada is 7.5 and 9.1 for Cortex. Cortex Wind is a bit more expensive, so it's not as good as the Armada version. So it's a little bit better to get solar in that case. Having it be at 9.1 instead of 7.5. All right, so now here you are moving out with your commander. I like to see that you are grabbing this back mex quickly with your constructor. Grabbing these mexes is very important. I will say though, since your commander is moving this way anyways, and they have a lot of build power on them, 300 compared to, I believe it's 100, or no, it's 90 for construction vehicles. So he can actually build the mechs really quickly. So I would grab this on your way out since he's just passing right through it. The other ones your constructor can grab. But since he's very close to it, you can just grab that right away. Because yeah, you're already starting to get low on metal, and the faster you increase that, the faster you can, build stuff, and you won't stall on metal doing that. So yeah, it looks like you have a couple of blitzes out. You're engaging this orange pawn army or group with green here. Good to see it. Picking all those off. Lots of rocks here, I'm noticing. Yeah, it's like 1,000 metal. Split between you both. Pretty good, pretty good. Also, there's this 4.8 mex here. Very, very important to have that if you can, because that'll be a lot more metal and that's kind of like the whole reason why you want to push out and control the center, is to be able to protect everything that's behind it. So, you know, this purple player here, you know, pushes out this way, or maybe they push out this way because, yeah, I shouldn't say this one. They push out this way, they control this area, you control this area here. You know, light pink, or sorry, light green will control this area, and green will control this area. Yeah, I made light green's box a little big, but I hope you get the idea. But yeah, once that line is set up, everything back here is safe. So it's all very important to like control that area, so that you can have all the mexes. That's the main reason why you want that's the main reason why you want to control your half of the map, is to be able to build the mexes on there. And oftentimes maps will have a bigger mex like this in the center. And so, you know, it's kind of like, at the very least, you want to try to deny your opponents from having that mex. And, you know, you definitely want to try to control it and build on it if you can right away, so that you get that extra metal. Because 4.8 is quite a lot compared to the 1.8 of the other mexes. It's more than double, so it's quite good. Quite good. So with that being said, I would actually try to set up your towers up here so that this mex is safe. Because with them behind the mex, you can grab the mex still, but it's in the front, so like it's really easy for it to get picked off. This is kind of a lot of towers for now. I mean, I would definitely prioritize the mex. Maybe one tower, one like radar or something, and then the mex in this kind of position. Oftentimes I'll get the radar first, just so I know what's out here. Being able to see is very important. Here's some bombers going off. But yeah, the more you see, the more you can kind of plan for what your opponent's doing. And so now that you have a radar out here, you can see these dots out here and know that they're kind of far back. You know, so they're not challenging this at the moment. So you know, definitely grab that. You know, in terms of payoff, like, you know, it takes 50 metal to build a mex. And, you know, at 4.8, it'll take like, you know, like 11, 12 seconds for it to pay off. So it's a very quick return. So I'd try to grab that ASAP. I'm gonna pause real quick right here. Okay, it looks like your queue ran out. By the way, in case you don't know, there's this repeat button. It's very, very handy. Basically, anything that you queue up in the, you know, in terms of units being built, it'll repeat those. So you can queue up something like, for example, like 2 blitzes, a stout, a Janus, stout, and then the factory will produce those 2 blitzes, stout, Janus, stout, but then it'll repeat that in that same order. So you can set up like a ratio of like, I want this many stouts to Janus, or whatever it is. And that way, you know, you don't have to keep coming back here to keep adding stuff to the queue. In the settings, you can actually see if I can find it. There's a lot of things to sift through here. I think it's under game, auto repeats. So under factories here, under behaviors in game, or so it's game, under behaviors, and then auto repeat. So what that does is, if it's enabled, after a factory finishes, it automatically goes on to repeat. You know, so anything in the queue will be repeated automatically. And then if you ever want to insert something into the queue, because say, you know, you have a nice ratio of military units pumping out, and then all of a sudden you want another constructor. If you want to insert something into the queue, you hold Alt and click on whatever it is. And all these have hotkeys, by the way, too. So you can do like Alt Z for a constructor, or Alt Q for a beaver, something like that. And that's pretty handy for constructors specifically, because you might want, you know, like you might have a nice set going on, and then like your build power starts rising like it is right now, and then you can add more build power to your factory by just having that constructor come out. I can only assume that you have factory guard on, but if you don't, it'd be in settings, it's under the same thing. It's just factory guard builders. And what that does is, you know, every builder that comes out of here will automatically assist the factory instead of going to the rally point. So that's all very handy stuff to have on. But yeah, this is idle for quite a while, which means now you're going to have less units for it. Also, where's your constructor out here? Oh, okay, he's right here. Yeah, so you're still queuing up some stuff. Okay. But yeah, your metal's starting to rise here. Generally speaking, as soon as your metal starts rising, you want to add on another constructor. But here, the issue is you're not building units, and so your metal is getting very, very high. So anytime you see your metal start rising like this is when you want to look back here and see if this is operating properly. And if you need to, you can add on more constructors to use your metal faster and get out more units more quickly. Okay, so you lost the mechs here, not a big deal. You know, some guy got through and took it out. Looks like you responded appropriately. So yeah, now manager's coming back here. Okay, yeah, I mean you can put towers here. I would say eventually, once you start, you know, practicing and getting a little bit better, you can kind of see them coming in with your radar, and hopefully zoom out and just, you know, periodically zoom out to see what's happening, and then you'll be able to respond to things coming in like that. A lot of really good players will actually play rather zoomed out. I prefer not to, but you know, so I have to like zoom out once in a while to like check stuff out, or just look at the mini map and just see where the dots are, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, being mindful of stuff is very good. That's something I talk a lot about in higher level games, where it's like you kind of need to zoom out a lot to see how everyone else is doing, to see where, you know, if there's something that needs to happen, you know, you can maybe respond or change your play up to you know, do something that's better for your team than just to make units. But anyways, that's a much later topic in a way. Alright, so it looks like you're engaging orange here. Lots of rocket bots. Lots of D guns going off. Looks like you're surrounded those rocket bots pretty well. Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately they get away a bit. Here I would say don't go for the commander. It's oftentimes very hard to kill commander, and if you are attempting it, try to spread your units out as much as possible. Given what was there, I would say you do have enough, but you need to spread them out really well, like so that when they degun, they only degun one unit at a time. So you want something, you know, much more like this, ideally. You know, surround them. In case you don't know, there is like flanking bonus damage. There's like an indicator in settings as well. Forget where it is. Indicator for flanking. Defensive. Flanking direction. Okay, so it's under interface. I think your settings will probably have to be on advanced, but you go to page 2, go to info, and then it's the flanking direction. And so what that does, let's see if it's really hard to tell here. Okay, yeah, actually let me change my camera settings so that I can zoom in a bit further. Controls, limit zoom, oh, let's put that way down. So here, if you look at this unit, there's this like red line here and a white line here. So the way flanking is, or the way it works is, when a unit gets hit that hasn't been hit in like a, you know, a little while. When I say a little while, I mean like a few seconds. It'll show which side it got hit. So this white line indicates where it got hit first. And so anything that hits it from this front direction is 100% damage. And anything that hits it on the back here, I can't draw arrows, but anything that hits it on the back is now 200% damage. And that scales like all the way around. So something that hits it from here will be, you know, it'll be like 150% damage. You know, and that goes all the way around. Now after the first shot, this white, you know, the fronts of it or whatever, where it got hit, will slowly shift to where the new attacks are. So it's good to do things like surround. I mean, first it's good to have units like on this side, you know, so that it can exploit that 200% over here. But then as this starts like moving this, you know, towards this direction or this angle, you want to move your units downward and around. ideally. Obviously it's hard to do that in the moments. Usually just suggest to surround them as much as you can to exploit that. But yeah, I'm gonna put this back so I don't forget later. All right, let's keep going. All right, so you grab the mech, so that's good. You are very full. You're not building units once again. So I'd say that this is usually the first thing you want to think about is building units faster. And if you are purposefully like not building units so that you can build your eco up a little bit faster, I would suggest to get some more build power before doing so if your metal's this high. That way these projects that your constructor guys are doing will get done a lot faster. Also, constructions, if you try it, so you can do that in two ways. You can either get more constructors, or you can build on build turrets. And some people like the style of like, you get like a constructor and you boost out a construction turret before your commander leaves the base. But I find that oftentimes leads to too much build power, and then all of a sudden, you don't have enough energy for it, or there's kind of a like you don't really need it right away, so it's like half being used. So the style that I prefer to do is just keep adding on constructors until you have about 4 of them or 5 of them like in your base like this. Like, here you have 4. And then once I have 4 and I need more build power, then I'll add on a construction turret. And the construction turret is just much more efficient in terms of how much build power you get out of it compared to how much cost it is. But the construction vehicles have the added benefit of you can move them around, to build stuff elsewhere. You can, assist things that are away from the base and stuff like that. So I like to have, a good handful of constructors when I can afford it. And then, yeah, if you have 4 constructors building that build turret, it'll build a lot faster. Because otherwise, just having like 1 constructor do it, it takes a while for it to build. Alright, the other thing I want to talk about here really quick is these advanced solar collectors. So advanced solar collectors, like I was saying in the beginning, when wind is above, or when wind average is above 7.5 for Armada, it's more metal efficient to build winds. It's not more time efficient. Like winds takes a while to build up. Like they're so cheap, you got to build like a lot of them. So I don't mind having like maybe a solar collector here, but I feel like on a map like this, the wind speed, being 12.7 is actually technically better than a fusion, and in terms of metal cost. So I would go as much wind as you can and spend as little metal on like solar collectors and advanced solars as you can. Now, if you need energy in a hurry, this is a fine thing to add. Just ideally, you want to have more solar wind turbines for that efficiency. Because the less metal you spend on this stuff, the more metal you can spend on units, and the more units you have, the stronger your fronts here will be, and the more you can push off your opponents. So already with these changes that I'm suggesting, I think you'd be able to field way more units here. If you're able to field way more units, then all of a sudden you can easily kill this off. You can threaten this, probably kill that commander, and then you can even threaten like some of these other positions here, or up front, I guess too. So in a way, like you could actually carry the team a lot more, or carry the team and do really well with just a few adjustments on your economy. But again, just to like, I guess, summarize that, because I kind of said a lot of stuff. So I'll summarize it into like bullet points. So first of all, grab your mexes ASAP. And you don't want to like not go to the front with your commander just to grab mexes. But if there's a mex on the way, you can grab that like you could have with this one. So that'll help you get more metal. And then for energy, you want to balance your energy with your energy, with your metal needs. So if basically as your metals starts going up, you're going to need more energy to be able to spend that metal. And then if both your metal and energy are good and your metal's still rising, then you're probably going to need more build power. And again, that's in terms of either getting more construction vehicles or getting construction turrets. Turrets are great in your initial base here. They will help build like a lot of this energy production. They can also help build units. And then once you get T2, they can help build these mexes. So I would say in terms of positioning, you want to put construction turrets where they can also assist these 3 mexes. Looks like I missed a little bit of fighting here. By the way, these walls, so Dragon's Teeth don't really help in terms of rocket bots. They don't really help in terms of plasma. Unless they're attacking something low to the ground like a mech, so these walls here make sense. Some of these other walls by the LLT isn't as useful because the rockets can actually just shoot the LLT because the LLT is taller. There's this thing you can do. You can actually do this during the game, but I wouldn't really suggest it. But since we're just paused here, you can do Alt-V, and that'll show some of these like hitboxes and stuff. So the purple dot, it might be a little bit hard to see, but the purple dot in these meshes is where things target. So things that have a taller target point, that where that purple dot is, the easier, that's basically like a rocket coming in tries to aim for the purple dot here, and they'll go over the wall because the wall is so much shorter. So it just doesn't help for LLTs, but then for mexes, because it's kind of hard to see. Well, you don't actually have a mex there either, but basically mexes are so much shorter that's it works out a little bit better for them. But yeah, if you ever want to see that, it's Alt-V, just to toggle it. Oops, looks like I took it off your view by accident. That thing back on. Yeah, so this is kind of, this has to do with the fact that, first of all, you when to try to kill the commander with the blitzes and lost all your blitzes for it. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of risky, is because if you don't get the commander, then all of a sudden you just you just lost all those units for nothing. So you're low on units here for, that reason, trying to kill the commander and not getting it. But also because of this. And that might be, again, by design. But yeah, it's quite important to have enough units here. So I would not suggest turning this off if that's what you're doing on purpose. I'd say usually you don't need a storage here. I would recommend just not getting a storage unless you're, reclaiming like thousands of metal, or if you're, yeah, I mean basically reclaiming, because the only other reason why is if you were building like a T2 lab that you were reclaiming afterwards. Yeah, generally you don't need that as much. You want to try to spend it instead. Let's see, so you're starting to get hit by all these different directions. Yeah, it's three different players kind of attacking you there. Let's see, so you pulled your commander back. Wise choice. Fortunately, light green's just kind of getting picked on a little bit now here too. Yeah, I mean this is kind of fine. Sometimes I would recommend getting more, like if you're pushed back, start just building some LLTs on this other side. But since you're against rocket bots and stuff, like I don't think that's all that useful. What you really need is more units here. You need this to come online so badly. Because as it is, like, now you're leaving light green to fight off 3 people. Well, I should say, purple's leaving pink alone enough that pink is now over here. And orange also attacked you with yellow. But now that you're pulled back, now all of a sudden light green's going to lose this position because of all 3 of these players. Even if pink has to fend off purple right now and it has to go back, yellow and orange definitely have enough to destroy this position. Um, and since you don't have units either, they could actually just kind of keep going and reach your base or reach light green's base if other players don't respond to help out. So yeah, I'll just say it's all very important to keep getting units when you can. Your energy is getting quite high here. You don't really need that much energy right now. The only reason why you need quite this much is if you were getting T2, like if you were, yeah, if you either bought or were given a T2 constructor, or if you're trying to go for the lab, then of course you need energy for those T2 units. But here I would say definitely try to prioritize units because it's very much needed. Okay, yeah, so just add on more build power now. But yeah, since you're so high in metal, I definitely think you should be building out of here. Well, it looks like they're leaving you alone for now. Alright, so you actually, I missed it. You must have gotten a T2 constructor A. Okay, so you got one a little while back. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense to not have units going on right now for that reason. But since you have the metal, like you have plenty of metal to upgrade these and build units. So I feel like you should just build units. And also what I was saying before, so the position of these construction turrets is out here. And you know, if you see these green rings, they don't help assist upgrading these mexes. And ideally you'd want some more build power on it so you can upgrade them faster. And that way you benefit from having them upgraded a lot sooner. So I'm curious to know what you just... Okay, so you put down a T2 lab. I mean, I feel like here you don't quite have enough energy for that, but I mean, it's totally fine. So what I would recommend here, instead of like it's good that you waited before the you know, until after you had this first mex to get the lab, but you could actually or should be waiting longer to get it. The reason being is you want to spend that metal on upgrading these first. And since the lab is so expensive, I would have just waited a little bit. Because yeah, ideally having all three of these mexes would help you out a lot more. But then yeah, your energy's a little bit low, but you can get away with using what you have right now too. So I mean, it's kind of fine. But what you could do, if you were more in an energy issue, you could put down a fusion after these three mexes and then get the lab. It really kind of just depends on how threatened you feel. Given that they're not pushing, you could get away with it, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of better. You know, you can't just assume that your opponents are not going to push you. So I would maybe get that. I would maybe get the lab in that case. All right, good. I'm glad to see that you're eating your T1 lab for your T2. But now you're stalling a little bit on this mex here. Well, I guess you're not stalling because you're not producing, but now you're going to be stalling. All right. The other thing I'll mention is, you know, these solar collectors, these base ones are obsolete. You don't need them anymore. I'll just eat them. You know, 150 metal or 155 for Armada. You know, it's not a lot, but you know that means you have 310 sitting here that could go to upgrading this a little bit faster. Right, so light green is doing a reasonable job getting enough units out to help fend orange off from attacking you. Nice job by blue, getting those shurikens up. Alright, so now you're producing bulls. I'd say usually before bulls, I would recommend getting these mexes upgraded a bit more. You could start with something like a Mauser. It's far cheaper and it can hit really long or really far away, so you can, you know, micro them pretty well. Especially against T1, they're quite nice. Whereas bulls can sometimes get overwhelmed by T1 if there's like a lot of pawns or grunts or something running at them. Okay, so upgrading that max. 3 bulls are out. Okay, so your energy's a little bit low, but it's really not that bad. You will start stalling soonish. Yeah, so here I would continue building on wind. It's just so good. Alright, so here you're getting barraged by what looks like arbiters or something like that. Once you know, like long range stuff starts hitting you, I would try to put up a jammer just so that they can't see the stuff on the radar. They can only guess where your units are at that point, and it'll just make it a lot easier to avoid getting hit by these shots. Actually, as it is, it looks like they don't have a radar seeing this far anyways. Or if they do, they? I'm really curious now, actually. Okay, so they do see the dots. They were just manually attacking. Got it. Let's go back to your view. Let's see. Okay, cool, perfect. Or is it perfect? Yeah, good. Sometimes the view screws up, so I gotta check myself. All right, so we added some more advanced solar. Yeah, I mean that's pretty reasonable. I mean because you're just like slightly low instead of very low. I feel like that's reasonable. But yeah, eventually you do want to go for a fusion. But it looks like you're pushing these guys away first. Yeah, and if you can, I would say, you know, especially when you get early T2 like this, try to pull back these injured guys and just repair them. By the way, repair is free, so repair is very, very strong. You know, so just getting them, say, back to your base by these build turrets, and then you can manually, you know, click them and then right-click on the bull that needs repairing, type of thing. At upper levels, you'll oftentimes see, you know, some construction turrets like closer to the fronts of battle. You know, there'll be like a small stack of them or something up here. Like there'll be like 2 or 3 that'll just repair units that need repairing. Yeah, this is nice. You're eating up some metal. So your energy, yeah, your energy is coming back to a good spot. So that's good. Now, I'd say anytime you build a storage and you run out of metal, you can also reclaim the storage and just get that 330 metal back. Energy converter, like, you know, it's a wind map. Like, it's pretty useful to just have them for a while. Like, you don't really need to reclaim it unless you're like really trying to greed for something quickly. So your bulls are running through. Oh, there's a T2 lab on the front. Easy pickings if you can get to it. Nice. Nice little kill there. One of the things I'd recommend with your army, and actually I'd recommend doing more of like a combined arms kind of thing, but bulls are pretty good on their own. It's just, I would say, get the radar vehicle, get the radar jammer, and just have like, you know, one of each of those with your bulls. Reason being is jammers, you know, jammers can make it so that you shoot them and they can't even see you. You know, so they're like, you know, taking no damage is always better than taking damage. So being able to run in there without them seeing you is even better. Radar helps you see they have good line of sight, and they help you, you know, see the dots beyond your like static radars that are in the back. So that's quite useful to have as well. But yeah, in terms of combined arms, I would say it's nice to have some Mausers with it. If you are dealing with a lot of T1 units, then Jaguars are quite nice as well. You know, so you can kind of mix it up a bit. It doesn't have to be purely bull. And the reason why I say that is because if it's a big mass of like pawns or something that are really cheap, like you can overwhelm bulls because they can only shoot so fast. Um, so I've seen like pawns and grunts deal with a small handful of bulls pretty easily. But yeah, it just has to be a lot of pawns or grunts to deal with it. So just having jaguars with it helps a lot for that reason. Yeah, you're doing some damage. I would say maybe work up some more bulls. Um, every time you run in here and lose the bulls like this, you're kind of donating some metal here. So I would recommend being a little bit more careful. It's nice to get some damage off when you can, but if you do it too often, it just becomes a lot of metal for them. But if you were to do more of like a, I guess like a slower push, like you work up, bulls like this as a front line. Wait, where are these hounds coming from? Okay, looks like green gave them to you. Makes your army a little bit awkward to control, but basically what I'm saying is, if you had a bunch of bulls, had a prophet, had an umbra, as radar and jamming, and then had like Mausers and jaguars with it, your Mausers could shell them from a distance. Like you could set up your Mausers here, have your bulls like out here, and the Mausers can just shoot stuff while the bulls deal with stuff that are coming in, or I should say the bulls and the jaguars. And one of the easiest ways to do that, if you're using auto groups, which I'd highly recommend, you put your bulls on one key, like your tanky like guys that are going to absorb damage, on a key, and then you put your you put your Mausers and Umbras and stuff on a second one, and that way you can micro them separately. I like putting my bulls, for example, on one and having Mausers and jamming and radar on two, and that way I can station the guys on two further back, and if there's a threat that comes in, I can use just my bulls to engage and micro around, while the Mausers shell them, of course. Alright, so you are getting some Mausers, so that's good. Yeah, I suppose I mean, it is reasonable to run in there with some bulls like you did. So I mean, I guess I don't mind it that much. It's just me thinking of the future and thinking of things you can do so that you don't lose all those bulls so quickly. Yep, bulls are quite good, quite strong. Oh, your metal is rising again. Okay, so you stopped producing units. Yeah, so I'm noticing that I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, like to if you want to produce some units and then just kind of work up some metal and see how it goes. But I would say in the meantime, you could start a fusion or something like that and just get more economy. That would be my recommendation for that. Let's see. So these flak cannons, I would say are a little bit out of place, mainly because you don't want them really inside your base. You kind of want them on the outside of your base. So this one's not too bad. I would say this one could be positioned maybe over here, and then the one that's inside your base could be like out here, or maybe on the hill or something. The reason for that is flaks have a very limited range. It's like this this circle here. So when a bomber comes in, and the bombers, they start dropping their bombs before they get to the target. So if bombers, say, were to come in and try to destroy these wind turbines, and they say target here as like their main attack point, well, the bombs will actually drop here, 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 and here. And so what that means is, they'll drop like that, but the bombers will actually release the bombs like all the way back here. Like that's when they'll start to like drop the bombs, because the bombs have, forward momentum to them. So they actually drop before the target. So what that means is this radar, or this flak here, barely hits that spot. And so you want them a little bit further forward. So that's actually the use, like why you would want to consider you know, doing something like a long-range anti-air tower instead of a flak. Flak is much better in terms of cost and actual damage, but because of their limited range, you want to put them a little bit further out, which means you need a lot more flak than you would for the long-range version. But all this makes sense. But anyways, you're doing a nice job with your bowls here. That's a lot of fighters. Hopefully blue is keeping up with that. Good time to pull back. Yeah, and if you do use auto groups, you know, you can do control and tilde, and that'll take something temporarily, or it'll take them out of the control group, and you can send them back to base to repair, and then once they're repaired up, you just add it back to the auto group. And that way you can actually repair your guys pretty efficiently. So yeah, keeping your units alive is a really good way to build up an even bigger force while doing damage. But yeah, it looks like you and dark green kind of just roll in here. Let's see. These Mausers feel very out of position though. Yeah, without any spotting, I would not have these here. I would at the very least, like, do you want, you know, radar and jammer there so that they can at least see and shoot stuff. Because as it is, they can't really even shoot anything. So they're just kind of sitting there as sitting ducks. Because they can't see anything. Yeah, you get some nice damage off. Okay, so you did get your fusion. So yeah, I guess your whole thing is to like build up the resource first and then build it. Which, you know, I've definitely seen some players do that. So I mean, I guess it's fine. Personally, I just try to get the fusion faster and put it down right away. But I mean, your style allows you to see what's going on and see how it goes before making a commitment. So it is okay. Yep, lots of air stuff going on. Alright, so you added on some anti-air. Let's look back at your base. Okay, I mean, wait, what are you spending on right now? Are you building anything? Just upgrading this max? Okay. So usually after a fusion, you want to take a look at your energy and see if you want to build any converters with it. And usually I'd recommend one converter, maybe two, or sometimes two, but it actually depends on your energy. And your energy here, I mean, obviously you're not building that much, so both are rising, so you know, it's not really good information right now, but usually you know, you want like one converter maybe at this point. Really depends on what you're building. Like if you're building Starlights, you might not want a converter for it. But yeah, it's good that you're greeding for more mexes and upgrading them. Okay, so you started C3 lab here. I'd say be careful with, like this is so close to a cliff, there's not much pathing here. So I'd be careful with that. In case you don't know, you can, you know, turn your buildings. Like, let's just take a look out here. So all you do is hit bracket. You know, the left bracket for, you know, counterclockwise and the right bracket for clockwise. And you can just, you know, point it a different way. You can also reclaim the stuff if it's in your way too, I guess. Okay, interesting. Going straight to a Thor. Yeah, I mean, given your resources, yeah, given your, I guess your style of play, you're building up all those resources, and now you can actually just quickly spend it on a Thor. So this is actually pretty reasonable. Yeah, wow, you're actually like breaking even on metal right now. So I would say you could actually get maybe 1 or 2 more construction hertz to pump this out a little bit faster. You got a lot of good metal income. again, you don't need these. I'm just kind of. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, I've said this to people so many times that now it's kind of like it irks me when I see solar collectors at this point in the game. Um, you know, and if you're hard up for metal, you can also reclaim these after your fusion. But that's more or less if you're greeding for like an Aphis or something like that, which is something else you could potentially do as well. Lunkheads, okay. Yeah, I mean it is a water map. Plenty of places where you can go with those. Generally, I wouldn't get these just for the front line, but I mean, don't get me wrong, they do have an okay cannon. Just usually, I would go something more for like a Marauder or a Razorback or a Vanguard in a lot of cases. These are, I mean, all the Armada T3 units are quite nice. Lots of lunkheads. Let's see if we... Okay, you're just kind of stockpiling them for now. Yeah, you and Greed have this very solid push. Oof. It's unfortunate. Now, I don't know if you were paying attention to where the commander was, but there was some indication that it was around that area. Armies come in, wreck the place. Oh, like green with the snipers. Good support. I am noticing that none of you have a radar or jammer. So very, very important. Like, especially when you're pushing into someone's base, like you want to be able to see where you're shooting. Otherwise, you don't shoot. You know, so all they're shooting at is like stuff that's below this line here, because that's where the vision ends. So the fact that there's no actual radar to see further is kind of like making it so that these units are basically free to kill if they had anything to really contest it. Now they do have some Sheldons here. Sheldons take a while to kill stuff though, so you know it might take a minute for this army to actually die. Whoops. Coming with the lunkheads. Yeah. I mean, so at this point you want to be a little bit careful, you know, because this is a lot of metal that is going to red at this point. And if they spend it properly, that means a lot more Sheldons. Like a lot more. Because yeah, T3 Rex are, you know, quite a bit. But yeah, Razorback would do really well here. Marauder would be more of like if you're attacking the side or something like that. Vanguards, if you, you know, if the enemy has some like heavy hitters in the fronts, and you don't want to like send in something with short range, then you get a Vanguard because they have a really nice long range attack, and that is like really good support for T2. All right. Ah, okay, so now you're getting that Razorback. Yeah, this is pretty much over. So I guess I'll start summing up here of what I think you could do differently. As like the main points, I don't want to, you know, talk in too much detail about all the things I pointed out. But, you know, basically, you know, there's a bit of stuff that you could do a little bit differently with the opener to get your metal a little bit faster. Whoops, I should have probably paused earlier. Yeah, to get your metal a little bit earlier, you didn't need to build quite so many wind turbines. You know, you can get like you can either do 2 mexes, build a wind turbine, 3rd mex, and then add on like 2 more wind turbines, or you could do like a solar and a wind turbine, and then get your lab, and that'll be that's quite the efficient way to get your lab quickly, so that you can start producing your construction vehicles to like help build the economy up a bit, and then meanwhile your commander of course can start moving up at a at a good time then. Um, the other way to do it would be to do all 3 mexes and then do 2 solars, and then your lab. Um, and then I like that you sent your first constructor to grab this back mex here, and then move on to some of the other mexes. What I didn't like is that when you moved out your commander, this mex, like you're passing right through it, you might as well have grabbed it, gotten a little bit more metal. Simply because it does not take long to actually build that. But yeah, like, starting with a little bit more metal because you went out to grab those mexes helps a lot. And then having those constructors out to like boost the lab or add on more energy and stuff like that. And then as you got to the front and you had some nice trades and stuff, you stopped building out of here. And again, I don't really know if that case it was like on purpose or not. If you're trying to greed for more economy or what. Looking at how this has played out and seeing that you've done that multiple times before adding on economy, I think it's on purpose. And I'd say if that's the case, that's cool. I'm glad you're thinking about it, and trying to make more greedy plays. But if you're going to do that, I would try to get these construction turrets a little bit sooner. Because if you're not producing units with the lab, you start racking up a bit of metal here. So as a rule of thumb, I usually tell people that's if their metal starts rising and their energy is okay, then add on more build power in whatever form. And then that way you can just build stuff faster, whether it be economy or units. And again, I don't know why my mouse keeps going off screen. Kind of annoying. But yeah, again, I would try to build those those construction turrets more centralized here, because then they can assist upgrading these mexes a bit later and assist wind turbines and stuff. And so you could put like your wind turbines out here, back here, and back here. And then when you go for something like T2, you can place that in front here, or T3. You can just put it all right here, hopefully facing this way. And then you get a fusion. The fusion can also go around here, but basically you can use those same build turrets for all the stuff. Which, it's like you're kind of doing that, but they're kind of offset here to the side when they could have helped out with these mexes. So while it's good to, pause production and stuff for mexes, it's good to eat your lab. You did all that really well, actually. If you have a bunch of metal, it's like you might as well be building or building the thing faster. Either building more things or building what you want faster, and just spending that metal with that. And I think that alone would be a big help for you. Just like rearranging it slightly, because yeah, like you got T2 at a good time, but they could have been a little bit faster. Your T1 units, you decided not to build more on. It was kind of a risky thing considering they had so many units out here. But it worked out for you. They didn't push it, so like why not? Right? But yeah, just more build power when your metal starts rising. Well, I was gonna say something else. Yeah, I mean, eat stuff like your solar collectors. Especially after you get a fusion, you don't need these basic ones. But usually you want that metal right away, so as you build on more winds, which is what I'd highly recommend on this kind of map, you can actually start eating these basic ones. And then if you really feel like you need something that is more stable, you can have like 1, maybe 2 of these advanced solar collectors. But then after your fusion, I would maybe, sorry, I don't know why I crossed that out. After your fusion, you want to get rid of, your solar collectors, because it is a metal investment. It's like in terms of efficiency, like metal efficiency, basic solar is the absolute worst. Advanced solar is the second worst. And and I mean, don't get me wrong, it depends on the wind speed. But here the wind speed is quite good. And then tide, of course, also depends on the tide, but generally speaking, wind is even better than tide in most cases. This storage makes more sense to me now that I see the style of play that you're doing. So I guess I don't mind it It's just I feel like I think you built it when you didn't really need it. Is what it kind of felt like. But maybe it was just you planning out for the future. So I suppose it's fine. Um, and then yeah, anytime you're out of metal, you could eat this and then rebuild it when you need to later, I guess. But that's kind of a lot of micro. Um, let's see. Your T2 composition was okay. You ran in there with bulls, did some damage, and then you got some Mausers to go with your bulls. It all worked out pretty good. Um, you didn't really need Jaguars, but I feel like Jaguars are usually a good idea. Um, let's see. T2. Oh, the jammer and the radar, very important. Very, very important. Um, the radar so that you can actually see once you get up here, you can see some of the dots out here and know where the threats are coming. And then jammer just to make it so that even if they have radar on you, which you're going into their base, so they probably will, but jamming that prevents them from attacking you back until they have line of sight on you. Um, and oftentimes units shoot further than they can see, so just being able to see further is better. Um, T3, I don't mind that you went T3 at this time, or when you did. You have enough metal for it and stuff, so I mean, it all worked out and was useful for sure. Um, Unfortunately, your sword got a little too close to that commander, but it happens. But yeah, overall, like a pretty good game. It's hard for me to say too much more about it because the game ended here. I think you're doing a pretty good job, and honestly, like playing way above where your OS is. So like, I don't I don't really know why you're still at 7, but you're doing quite well. Um, yeah, this is all pretty solid. So I hope you learned something from this. I know I was kind of my brain's a little scattered. I'm noticing as I'm talking about all this stuff, but I hope you got something out of it. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I'll see you around. Thanks for watching.